The Zach LaVine trade rumors have not gone away. And on today's show, we break down the latest surrounding the two-time All-Star in Chicago alongside some Tyler Herro injury news and update. But before we dive into today's show, I want to make sure you guys join the channel because we will have you covered on all things Miami Heat. We will also be live on Wednesday for a watch party against the Cavaliers and Friday evening against the New York Knicks for an in-season tournament game. Join the channel. We're on the road to 7K subs. You will not regret it. Hit that sub button today. All right, let's dive into everything Zach LaVine because Jake Fischer, an NBA insider, had some pretty interesting comments. He said Zach LaVine and his representation hold several preferred landing spots, such as the Los Angeles Lakers, your Miami Heat, and Philadelphia 76ers, league sources told Yahoo Sports, and each team has registered some level of interest in the Bulls guard. I don't really find this surprising whatsoever because if this is truly coming from Zach LaVine's camp, well, why wouldn't he want to go either to Miami, Philly, or Los Angeles? Those are three teams that can compete for an NBA title, which obviously Zach is not doing in Chicago. That organization is an absolute train wreck, and I expect them to blow up the entire roster when February rolls around and the trade deadline is here. But the question is, are those teams really that all in for Zach LaVine's services? Well, Helin had this to say. It was pretty intriguing as well. While Zach LaVine has his list of teams, Lakers, Heat, 76ers, the interest from those franchises is lukewarm right now, league sources told NBC Sports. And that is also something that should not be that big of a surprise. Zach LaVine is one heck of a basketball player. He's talented. He can score on all three levels on the court. He can get to the rim, head tap you with a dunk, but he could also get to his spot in the mid-range and hit those tough step-back threes. The numbers aren't there this year, which we'll show in just a bit, but Zach LaVine is a talented 20-plus point per game scorer and has been that way for the last 5-6 years of his career. But the reason why I kind of agree with the fact of not really the franchises being all in on LaVine right now is that it's still very early in the season. We haven't even got 20 games through for any team in the NBA right now, so who's willing to shake up their roster this early? It's only November. Roster shakeups don't really happen until January, February. I get that we had the Clippers 76ers James Harden trade, but that's because Harden made it messy and requested a trade. LaVine is yet to do so, so I don't think there's any urgency from Chicago's side or any of those three teams to go all in for LaVine. And obviously this is a Heat show, so we're going to dive specifically into the Miami Heat. And if they should even entertain a Zach LaVine trade, I have some interesting thoughts on that in a second. But I want to hear what you guys have to say first. It's today's pinned comment, so YouTube ad break hits, let it roll, and go answer this question in the comment section. Are you interested in Zach LaVine? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I pinned it for a reason. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Well, first I'll say this. The LaVine's situation is very weird in Chicago. You obviously had the Shams Charania report that both teams are working itself maybe towards a trade, and then obviously you have those reports about what team LaVine wants to go to, and then the question of are they actually even that interested. But things took a turn for the weird on Saturday night when the Heat actually blew a 20-point lead to the Bulls, because after that game, the Bulls players were celebrating, all excited about they just had a pretty big win at home after they were trailing 22-1 at one point. Well, Zach LaVine did not take part in those celebrations. Gustavo actually had this tweet with a video that accompanied it, and if you haven't seen it, look it up on Twitter. But Zach LaVine literally pushed the Bulls PR person and was the only Bull to leave the court while the rest of that Bulls team was celebrating that win against the Heat. And if you didn't see the video, he walked straight to the locker room after the game. The PR person tried to grab him on the arm to try to hey, get back here, Zach. We got a post-game interview for you, either radio or TV. And LaVine just completely ignored it and went straight back to the locker room. I think he's checked out. I don't think he wants to be in Chicago much longer. It's been a long 5 seasons plus for him in the Windy City. He's put up gaudy numbers, been to the All-Star game twice, but they haven't really won anything. They had that playoff run in 21-22 when they signed Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, where they were the 1 seed for the first half of that year, and then Lonzo got hurt and derailed the entire season. And it's really gone downhill for Chicago since then. But I do think he actually is checked out. He doesn't want to be playing in that system anymore. Billy Donovan is apparently not really connected with LaVine. Zach doesn't like when he got benched a couple year ago, I think it was, when he got benched against the Thunder, I believe it was. So it's been a tricky situation between Billy Donovan and LaVine. I think he's checked out, and I think both teams, between the organization and the player, just need to reset, move on, and really just move on from each other. Coming up, though, do the Heat even need Zach LaVine? Should they go all in to trade for Zach? I'll break that down coming up. But first, I got to give a shout out to our sponsor on today's show, and that is Prize Picks. They got the best deal in the business for the best daily fantasy sports platform in the business. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. If you don't believe me, well, you can believe rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who play Prize Picks every single day. And I've had some troubles in the NBA. Flat out can't hit one. So I'm taking my talents to the NFL. I'm taking advantage of this really cool promotion Prize Picks is running with Christian McCaffrey, usually 110.5 rushing and receiving yards. Well, they bumped that down to only a half for Thanksgiving. I'm taking the more than on that. And then tonight's Monday Night Football game, taking more than A.J. Brown, Julio Jones touchdowns combined, and more than KT, Kadarius Toney, 6.5 receiving yards. You can fade my picks, you can take my picks, but one thing you can't deny is that Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports platform in the world. Daily fantasy sports made easy. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. All right, back to LaVine, because his season has not gone that well. And if you look at his numbers for 2023, well, you'll be surprised to find out that the efficiency isn't very good. He's usually an efficient player, but this year, 22 a night, 42% from the field, and 34% from three. And if you've seen this show before, you would know that is normal or not normal for Mr. LaVine. Over the past 4 seasons for Chicago, he's been durable, playing almost 60 games per season, shooting 38% from three in almost every single year, while shooting no worse than 45% from the field. So this is a career low ever since joining Chicago for LaVine. And that's why I think maybe, I don't know if Zach LaVine is the savior. The Heat need to get an upgrade this offense. We know this. It's always been that way. That the Heat aren't going to get over the hump and win a championship unless they add a 3-level scorer that can get the job done. Maybe it's not LaVine, but could it be Tyler Herro just returning as the shooting guard? As you know, sprained his ankle 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday night action against the Memphis Grizzlies. Well, it was actually reported today that he is out of his walking boot and is now going to continue the rehab process. I think Herro is about 1-2 weeks away from returning to game action, but it is a good sign to see Tyler get out of that boot and start returning to basketball activities, because the Heat certainly need his talents. He's been phenomenal in the 7.5 games played this season. You're going to ask yourself, what do you mean a half? Like, how is that even possible? Well, that game that he got hurt against the Grizzlies kind of hurt his numbers, right? 22.9 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 44.7% from the field, and 41% from three. But I tell you what, these numbers were above 25 point per game before that Grizzlies game. So if you take away the Grizzly game, where he only scored about 8 points and then left, he would still be averaging 25 plus a night. Tyler Herro has been fantastic for Miami in this early part of the season, and I know the Heat went on this scoring run about how, or not scoring run, excuse me, the winning streak about, and people are starting to question, do the Heat even need Tyler Herro? Because they're winning without him. Duncan Robinson has stepped up in the starting lineup and been putting up 18 points a game, scoring on all 3 levels of the court himself, just being absolutely unbelievable. He's actually playing better right now than he was when he earned himself that $18 million a season in 2019-2020. Duncan Robinson has been great. But the thing is, the Heat still need Tyler Herro. I'll tell you why here in just a second, but I want to hear your thoughts before that. Are the Heat better without Tyler Herro? Type B for better, type W for worse. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm typing my W's because the Heat are not better with Tyler Herro on the bench. And you can really just point to the Chicago Bulls game on Saturday evening. Everything was going right in Miami. I tweeted it out. The Heat starting the game on a 22-1 run is absolutely bonkers. You should win that game every single time. The problem, though, they didn't win that game. Why? Because the fourth quarter struggles showed up again. And I thought they got rid of those fourth quarter struggles when they went on that 7-game win streak because they were playing well in the final frame, they were beating decent teams, and they did it all on the road. But that issue reared its ugly head once again on Saturday. They have a chance to make it right tonight if you're watching on Monday against the Bulls. But the reason why that offense went dead in the fourth is because outside of Jimmy and Bam, there was no offensive creation. The Heat were lacking good shot attempts. They were taking bad shots. Jimmy Butler bailed out the Heat down the stretch, but ultimately wasn't enough to get that win. Tyler Herro's ability to handle the ball, get to the rim, play make for others, create shots for others, as well as himself, is the reason why the Heat need someone of that caliber. Let's not try to disregard 25 points per game while shooting 45% from the field and 41% from beyond the arc. The fans that try to discredit Tyler Herro, saying the Heat are better without him, are just flat out just trying to create a narrative in their own head. There is no world where the Heat are better without Tyler Herro. And yes, they went on a run. Duncan Robinson has played better. But let's not act like a 25-point-per-game scorer is holding this team back. Are we serious right now? I don't want to be on that type of time whatsoever. It pisses me off, to be on all honesty. If you want more Heat takes like this and more Heat news and rumors, follow me on Twitter at Nick_Roloff. Shout out to David Pena and Ray Artan, two of the people that always follow me, comment, like my stuff as well. Shout out to you, Monty2K, as well. Easy shout outs for there. Follow me on Twitter at Nick_Roloff. You'll be informed on everything Miami Heat.